Hi, welcome back to the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel. I'm Lisa Louise Cook of the Genealogy Gems podcast, and we are here at Roots Tech 2013, bigger and better than ever. And joining me right now is Randy Whited, and he's a director with the Federation of Genealogical Societies. He's the education chair, and he's teaching a class that really caught my eye, and I know it's one that addresses some questions that some of my listeners have had. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Thank you.
Here at Roots Tech, now let me look, because I'm looking at the official app, and it says, you are teaching digital photo and document organization, understanding metadata lab. First of all, you're doing a hands-on lab, is that right?
I am. I'm doing a workshop as opposed to standard PowerPoint, stand in front and lecture group. So it'd be a little more engaging and a little more hands-on, and I think that would help with learning the concept.
Exactly. And what we're really talking about here is investing in digital preservation of photographs in terms of making sure we're attaching information that helps us and future descendants understand who these people are and where these photos were taken. And one of the questions I had gotten from a listener recently was about the fear of doing some kind of tagging only to find out she either didn't do it right or, we'll have to go back and redo it all in 10 years. How do you approach that when somebody says, okay, here's my folder and it's filled with all these photos, and what do I do next?
Right. Well, I think the key concept to take from that is that do something.
Yeah.
It's better to do something than to not do it at all. And at least if it is in a format that you can transfer or copy, it's a lot easier to do that than it is to start from scratch again as well. But providing that information, just as you would with having the identity, the location, etc., is crucial. And so applying that to the data can always be moved over maybe to a different format later or a more suitable location depending upon the file type is obviously certainly much better than doing nothing at all.
Well, so there's kind of two different ways I'm thinking of off the top of my head as far as how I might go about documenting what my photograph is. One is the file name itself, the digital file, the JPEG, the PNG, whatever it is, sitting on my computer. I have to come up with a name that kind of makes sense for me so I know what the photo is.
Right.
But then there's kind of the under the hood metadata, correct? So
right.
Talk about first, do you have a favorite way of naming a naming convention for your photos and your digital files?
Usually it is going to be with the primary subject or maybe an event if it's associated with that. And also, this isn't necessarily just for our old photographs. It can be for the digital records that we do as well. Book scans, census records, stuff that we may pull off of online sites. All of those could have metadata associated with them to make them easier to find and to locate. But applying a naming sequence to them is really something that makes it easier for you to use, but may or may not necessarily have a meaning to someone outside of that. And that's where the metadata piece comes in. And when I say metadata, to give a little bit of an explanation, metadata is really just data about data. So you can think of it in some real-world examples, the information on the back of a photograph or on the bottom of a Polaroid, that's metadata. The table of contents or the index of a book is data about the data inside the book. It's not part of the book itself.
We've already been doing this. This is not foreign.
No, it's not foreign. It's just applying it to our digital files that may seem scary or I don't want to do it wrong. But there are lots of ways you can do it. One is with the file name. As you said, that in of itself is some information about what is inside that image. And so applying those, and those don't have to be too complex, and they can't be because of the size limitation that you have with the file name. And also a folder organization as well. But the thing with those is that you can move them from folder to folder, or someone else could change the file name and then you've lost the description or the provenance of that data. For those who are Windows users, I apologize, I'm not a big Mac user, but for those who are Windows users, really a great example of metadata is if you right-click on an image, go to Properties at the bottom, and then the window that pops up, the third tab over, is called Details. In that screen is where you see the primary metadata with your file. And a lot of that's going to be blank by default. Title, author, copyright,
and you could
comments.
edit that right in Windows Explorer. Because I think many people have the misconception, I'm going to have to go out and buy some big program to tag my my files.
Yeah, exactly. You can do that right there. And there are various standards for applying metadata fields within an image, and that's the problem with the standards, is that there's so many of them. And there are at least 3 different primary standards in Photos, and the one that actually you write to when you do that in Windows is kind of a stepchild to some degree, but it still stays with the image. And if I were to put, say, my citation, maybe I copy an image off of Ancestry, and I copy the beautiful citation that's already generated for me, place that in the comments field and save that. That is now embedded with the image itself in the digital realm, not on the face of the image. And so when I share that image with another researcher, they can go and view comments and they can see the source citation with that. There doesn't need to be a secondary file that's handed around or notes or anything along those lines.
And that's what I love. It really could become even a copy and paste type of function.
Exactly.
You're copying your source information from the original source if it's online and just pasting that right into the metadata. Does that data then become searchable? So we're in Windows Explorer and we're searching for files and we're used to searching for the name of the file, but is it going to check that metadata behind the scenes?
It will, absolutely. And there's some other fields there, like I said, title, author, copyright. There's another tag there called alternately tags or keywords depending upon the program that you're in, because this data is readable by other programs. But you could put in, say on that census record, you could put a keyword of census. And you can have multiple keywords, Alabama, Macon County. So when you go into Windows and search for a file, let's say you type in census, it will pull up all of the files that you have in your system that have the word census in the file name, but it will also find those that have census in the title, in the author, in the copyright, in the comments, and in the keyword section. And so it's another way for organizing your files.
Exactly. And those of you who are Genealogy Gems Premium members, you've probably seen my hard drive organization videos. And we talk about the file system, which is great. But what I love about metadata is it's that extra backup. So for some reason, files get moved or something gets renamed or something, you just can't remember how you did it. You can still use the search field and do a quick results list that's grabbing all of that data that you took the time to put in. So that investment of time, you're then recommending to your students, take the time, do it now, it's going to pay off in the future.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. And again, it stays with that if I share that with another researcher. If I embed that image as a document or as a resource into my genealogy software, not only do I have the image there, when I share that database and that image goes with it, the citation is in the comments field of that particular image.
And I think, too, when it comes to, let's say, a census record, it really is valuable to know, hey, this one came from Ancestry or this one came from Family Search, because they each do their own scanning. Each one has their little nuances, and if you know you're looking at an Ancestry version, maybe you'll want to go and check because you've got a question. Let's go look at a different source for the same record and see what their scan looks like.
Exactly.
And that can also help, I guess, if we come across even errors or misnumbered pages.
It's the full citation of that record. And going back to the original discussion of photographs, again, that comments field is wide open for anything that you would want to put in that. The author, you could put who took the photograph. You could put the date that the photo was taken, because you can edit that, not just the date that it was created on your system. And a lot of other keywords, you could put the surnames of the individuals that are there. And that's just using that basic functionality. If you use other programs such as Casa or Windows Live Gallery, I believe is the name of it, you can also tag the individuals on the photo itself. And that is
clicking
metadata.
on the face, right? And saying, this is who that is.
Exactly.
It starts to actually remember and say, is this who you mean? Doesn't it? I love that feature.
So it uses the metadata from other photographs and says, this image looks like what you've tagged as this person on another photo. Which speeds it up. And so you can use that. And also it's great for unknown photos.
Oh, right.
You may have already scanned that image off of or that person in a known photo, and then they're recognized on an unknown photo. You haven't identified them yet.
Right.
But that data is also metadata. It's saved. You have to make sure on the newer versions of Picasa that you check the appropriate box, and there's some settings there that probably more detail to get into now. But then that data at that point is saved with the photo, and you can open that up in a metadata viewer, and you can see all of the rows where it describes the rectangle and who it is and so forth. So you can see that stays with the image as you pass along, and it's editable and viewable by other applications. It's not just in Picasa.
So what I'm taking away from this, I hope you guys are too, is I don't think you can go wrong going into the properties and adding even just a little bit right now. Better something than nothing.
Correct. And it's not an optimal field for that. It's not a single field per citation element. It's just the block citation you're putting in comments. But there are other intermediate and advanced steps that you can go into to actually push that data into more formal standard fields as well. So there's some more nuts and bolts you can get into on the back end.
Right.
But you can't go wrong just by getting it there. At least if it's there, once it's in, it's easy to move and easy to use.
Well, to wrap things up, interested to know any warnings you have for us. You know, we're going to get started on this project. Any kind of do's or don'ts where you say, just keep an eye out for this, or...
True. Well, there are a number of different applications that you can use to edit metadata. Some of them may want to overwrite others. And so you want to use a few samples and test, if I'm using this application, is it overwriting something that, some unintended consequences off of that. And also if you're using media sharing sites such as Flickr or Picasa or Google+, those do not always preserve the metadata going into the application or coming back out. And so that may strip that out without you knowing it. So you'd want to test those before committing to that as a long-term plan.
And also, I would imagine, just from a security standpoint, keeping in mind you have tagged some of these photos before you go putting them on the public sharing sites, being aware that you can literally say where you are. You know.
Exactly. GPS data that may be recorded from your phone or you're embedding by geotagging.
Like pictures of your kids on the soccer field. You don't necessarily want everybody to know where your kids live.
Yeah. Time, date, location. Exactly. And in various applications will do it in bulk format, but also in that Windows details tab, you can also have it strip out.
So you could go in and actually remove it if you want to.
Absolutely.
For photos things you want to share, but you don't want to share everything.
Exactly. So you do have control over that as well, because there may be metadata in those images that you're unaware of that you did not put there.
Right. All great information, and I hope that you feel the way I do, which is this is all doable, and it's really worth doing, don't you think? Wonderful. And if you ever get a chance, tell us, you do a little podcasting too.
Of a sorts, yes. I do the FGS radio show. It's a bi-weekly radio show where we talk about various society subjects as well as other general genealogical projects as well. So it's great fun.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of this busy schedule and talking to us about metadata, because I think it's worthwhile investment of time and energy on everybody's part. So much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.